Hi, so I want to show you today one of my favorite websites to use for formative assessments. That's Quizizz. Quizizz is absolutely amazing. First amazing thing is that it's free. So free is for me, free is for all teachers. It has a great library that is all made by teachers for teachers. So if you are looking for a certain kind of an assessment, you could just type it right into the search bar and you could look through what other teachers have created and edit it for yourself. Again, you just simply have to make a quick free account for this. And it is important to know that there are lots of resources already made, but they're made by people. So naturally, you do want to check those over to make sure that there aren't any silly mistakes, that they are all appropriate, and that they're relevant to what you want. So let's actually just take a peek in this library. Again, to get to Quizizz, it is just quizizz.com, or you can just Google Quizizz and it'll be the first thing that comes up. So let's pretend like we were looking for something for main idea. That's a big skill that goes across some different grade levels. A lot of things are up here, and you see that it tells you how many times it was played, the grade levels that the teacher said that it was appropriate for, if others liked it or not. And there are lots of different ones on here. Do your work with looking through, making sure that it's what you want. Don't be lazy and just say, main idea, here, give it to my kids. Check it out. If you did look it over, so sometimes teachers have a different opinion on what is a certain grade level and what's appropriate for this grade level versus another. So I teach fifth grade, and usually I would see 9th to 11th and be like, way out of my kids' league. But I'm going to just quickly check on it. Sometimes I'm surprised. So weather reporters, information. I think my fifth graders may be able to do this. I may have to make some tweaks to it. So let's say I like it, but I want to change it. I would just go here to edit, and then it creates a duplicate. It makes a copy, and then I can make whatever edits or changes I would like to it. So I could edit this question, I can go through, and I can change whatever it is that I want. You'll see on the left side in the teacher editing part of a quiz that it's kind of all of the question format, and then on the right, you see what students see. On this one, you see that they inserted a funny image of a cat. You could decide to remove that if you wanted to, or put a different one in. So this is a simple multiple choice question. I see that they only gave 3 minutes for it. My fifth graders, when they're reading, I like to give them as much time as possible. So I would click on 15, even though I know they don't need that much time. If you wanted to add appropriate standards, they have everything from Common Core to any other grade level standards. Again, that's only if you want to be adding that in to keep, especially if you're going to be using it for anything as evidence. So with that, I do want you to just know the library is here. I'm not going to spend too much more time looking in this. Library is there. You can take and use as it is, or you can make a copy of, and make it what you want it to be. In addition to that, you can just create your own as well. It is a little more work, but if you have something that you are looking to be able to assess your students, so if you have something already, so for example, I have this resource that I used to use for my students that it would all be cut out and they'd have to put the themes together. We're not in person. We don't have that center right now. And I'm going to be honest, I don't feel like creating something that they drag and drop to have the puzzle pieces connect. I think that's too much work for me. So I thought that Quizizz would be a great place for that. I'm going to show you some of the options on when you're making a quiz, some really cool things for math teachers out there to be aware of. And then I'm going to show you one that I created with this from the student view. So you go to create a new quiz, and I had preloaded things that I taught. And let's just say we'll just say sample quiz. And let's pretend that we're math teacher right now. It's important that you know there are different question types you could use: multiple choice, checkbox, fill in the blank. Some of these you can have quizzes auto grade for you, but for example, like an open-ended question, it won't auto grade for you. You have to wait until the students are done and submit it, and then we do what we do best as teachers. We go back and we grade. We're not used to having things done for us, but this is an option for certain question types. So if you want to format it that way, it can just grade it all for you. So let's pretend that we're doing just the basic multiple choice. Um, this is where you would type your question. You can format the question different ways. There's a bunch of other kind of cool features for math teachers here. If I wanted to be putting some math problems on that I want my students to solve and then pick the best possible answer out of multiple choice, I am not limited by just what my keyboard has. And I don't really have to search far for these different characters and symbols. So let's just pretend I wanted it to be a simple 2 times 2 equals. All right, awesome. I'd put my different answers that I would want. So let's say I know it's 4, so I would say that's the correct answer. So Quizizz knows that's the one I want students to get points for. Then let's just put some other possible answers, and you'll see on the right side over here, this is what the students will see on their end. In addition to that, you can add media. You could add an image if you would like. If you are a younger grade level and you wanted to be adding an image showing the groupings, 2 groups of 2, if you wanted to be adding an audio, you can record in here, or you can upload if you have something pre-recorded. It's just important to know that there's a 10-second limit. So it's a good option for the audio. But just knowing there's only 10 seconds that you got for it. So again, you can, as a math teacher, use the symbols. Here's what I really like, especially as an elementary teacher. I don't teach math anymore, but I do know the importance of fluency of foundational skills. So fact and the quickness with it. You can actually limit the time that they have to answer. So you're encouraging them to be moving quickly. So do you want them to only be able to have 20 seconds to answer it before it moves on? I, as a teacher, an ELA teacher with lots of reading, I like to give them a lot more time, but just know that you could create a whole fact fluency quiz or a fact fluency practice for them. And it could hold them to the time, which remotely, it's kind of hard for students to always be honest about their time that they're spending on things. This way you would know that it's automatically changing after whatever amount of seconds that you put in. You can also align to standards if you would like. So I'm going to just remind you there are different question structures. And I think I've shown you enough for this end of it. I want to show you on the student end why students get so pumped about these quizzes. So let's just quickly look at one of my quizzes that I have created. And let's go down here, theme match. Awesome. So when you create a quiz, it stores it over in your quizzes. If you are assigning it, then you can check out your students' results by going over to my reports. And if your students use Google, I strongly recommend having them sign in with Google. It can be automatically assigned to Classroom too. But if you don't use Classroom or your students don't use Google, you can just have them log in, but just make sure that they are logging in with their actual name so that you know who it is that is playing or who it is that is taking your quizzes. You can play live, which is great when we're all in person, or if you know that everybody is online as we're distance learning, you can say, hey guys, let's I'll do a quick quizzes and you can send out a code for them to log in and then they can take it. When you're live, you have to control the start and the end of the quizzes. Or you can assign as homework, which basically is a student-paced assignment that they can work through it during a time range that you set. So I, for example, have students tomorrow that are going to be working on this one, and I have it in classroom that I scheduled it to be available to them at 8:30 a.m. And I am then, by the end of the day, going to close the quizzes and check the results. That just shares through a link, or you can also have them access it with a code. There's also practice, that there is a shareable practice link, or you can just play right away. So when you assign, it's important that you know there are also some other options. We'll get to the practice one in a second. And so you can assign it and go right to one of your classes, like I had just said. And you can also decide how many attempts students get. If you want them just practicing, give them an unlimited amount. If you want to really see what they know, give them one shot, so that you can actually see what they know, not what they remembered from the last time they played. Do you want them to show the answers in the game, like after each question? Do you want them to see the answers at the end so they can review? Power-ups is something my students like love because it's super game based. They get to power up, and it has some cool features that I don't even totally understand, but they love it, so that's awesome. There's also a timer for each question. That's up to you if you want your students to see a timer. You can have a leaderboard, which students get really into, especially remotely. Last week, my students loved competing with their friends, even though they weren't with their friends in class. They could see who was where and trying to beat each other's scores. Shuffling questions, shuffling answer options. So there's a redemption question that you can have as a feature. If you are not really assessing to see what they got and what they didn't, then sure, allow the redemption question. I actually, if I'm using this as a real piece of data, I don't allow that redemption question because I want to see first time how they did. Music, always leave it on. They want to turn it off, they can. And then here's what my students love is that they have all appropriate memes. I like to do the random ones, but there are a lot of different collections that you can go through, and then you just host the game. So I'm going to just bring us back really quickly, and we're just going to look at the student end of it. All right. Let's just look at practice. Player, share link, copy link. Okay, here we go. So students would either access it in classroom through a link, or you'd have them go to joining a Quizizz game and you'd give them the flashcards. All right, so there are flashcards that they can use as they are going through to review anything. And these are really helpful at the end to review so that they can see, you know, like where they would have gone wrong. There's also a read aloud function that can be turned on, which I think is always helpful. And I recommend my students using it. So we're not going to go through the entire game, but I do want you to get a feel for it. So this is what it looks like on the student end. And if they can't see a little picture, they are allowed to click on it to be able to read it. The read aloud reads these out loud to me. So I didn't actually read this. I would take my time because I should be, but let's just click on one, and that was incorrect. That's what students would see, and then they get a funny meme. They get into it, and then they can see their students, their fellow students' scores. Give up on something that is important to you. Option 2, have the courage to be honest. Option 3. So again, I would go through, I would read, and then I would click, oh, I got it right without even reading it. And you can see students, they get so amped about this whole game-based and seeing their friends and moving up on the leaderboard. I strongly encourage for you to check it out, to explore it, look at what things teachers have put up there, edit, make them work for you, or make your own. But it is definitely an engaging way to learn, and your students will love it. Good luck.